Welcome to another edition of the Roundtable. This is an opportunity for us to sit around and talk about issues affecting Jefferson County. I'm Matt West, and I work at the radio station in Festus, KJFF, and alongside my co-host is Steve Davis, attorney at law in Arnold, and lives in DeSoto, so he's kind of a cross-county kind of guy.
Glad to be back here again with you, Matt.
And today's topic is charter.
Yes, we've got a wonderful program. We're hoping to be able to give information out to our viewing audience on what charter government is or isn't.
Well, let's start with what we have right now. And with that, I want to introduce Chuck Banks. He's our presiding commissioner. Welcome, Chuck.
Thank you. Welcome. Glad to be here.
And when you're done, we're going to talk to Bill Dotson, who helped write the charter, and he's an attorney at law. And he'll explain what that form of government, at least initially, will look like. Let's start with, what do we have now? We have three guys, right?
We have the rural form of government, which is the same form of government that 114 counties have in the state of Missouri. There are third-class counties, which is based on population, second class, first class, and then first-class charter counties. We currently have that rural form of government, 3 commissioners. The county is split in half, north to south. We have a first district commissioner, who is Ed Kemp and represents the western half of the county, and Pat Lamping is the second district commissioner and represents the eastern half of the county. And as presiding, I represent the entire county. And that tribunal does the legislation for the county, and we do the administration for the county. No actions can be taken without at least 2 votes of the 3.
2 of you have to agree.
That's right. We are all 3 basically full-time paid political officers. We have every other elected office in the county is the same as every other county. We have a recorder of deeds, an assessor, and a collector, county clerk, a sheriff. That's the rural form of government that we have been under since 1818.
Well, several years back, a group of citizens were unhappy with a decision that the commission made, and usually when something like that happens, they put up a candidate to run against them or something like that. They decide, well, maybe we should change our form of government. They start collecting signatures. Long story short, you collect enough signatures, and you turn those in, and they're counted, and if verified, a judge appoints a committee to write a charter, and that's what they were going after. And Bill Dotson, I guess you helped write that charter, right?
That's correct, Matt.
And what is a charter form of government? How does that look?
Well, essentially, the Missouri Constitution provides that when a county gets to a certain size, and Jefferson County has been that size for a while, it achieves first-class status. And then the Missouri Constitution provides that of the first-class status counties may decide to change the statutory form of government, which is the 3-commissioner form, and adopt a charter. Now, a charter form of government doesn't necessarily have to take any particular form, but the charter that we've drafted, and by saying we, I mean a 14-member commission that was appointed roughly at the start of the year. We've drafted a charter that would provide for a change from the 3-commissioner form of government the county's had since its inception back in the early 1800s. And that would provide for a county executive to be elected, like Chuck is, from the county at large, and that would have and that county executive would have essentially the executive authority that is currently shared by the tribunal, by the 3 commissioners. And we would have the legislative authority of the county held by a 7-member city or county council, which would be elected from 7 different districts throughout the county. Each district would currently, or under the draft that we have, each district would have about 29,000 constituents. So we would move from having the legislative authority vested in 2 individuals who are elected from a group of 108,000 and 1 who is elected from a group of 216,000 to 7 who are elected from roughly 29,000 constituent districts.
It would look a lot like a city council, wouldn't it?
That's correct. Yeah.
I've got a question throughout the 2 of you, and I guess we should know the answer before I ask this question, but you mentioned first-class counties statewide. How many first-class counties, if you know, are there in the state of Missouri? And of those, how many have charter form of government?
I think that there are 17
That's correct.
first-class counties, and then there is 1 city. Missouri is kind of odd. It's got a bunch of counties, 114 counties, and then 1 constitutional city. Of those, 3 have elected or have determined to have a charter form of government plus the city. So 4 of the roughly county-type entities in the state have it.
And it should be noted that those aren't the only 3 that propose charter. It has been proposed many, many times and has been defeated many, many times. And there's currently an initiative going on in St. Louis County to go back to repeal the charter.
Well, let's really get into it here. Hey, this looks like more people helping out. What's wrong with that, Chuck?
Well, it's bigger government, and under the charter, we actually create 33 new positions. It should be noted that we are going to a very similar style of government as the city of Arnold or the city of DeSoto, city of Festus. Soon the city of Crystal City will be hiring a city administrator because the charter allows for the director of administration to become a very much more powerful position than it currently is. This will be a person who will be over all of the department heads and answers to the county executive, much like a city administrator does to a mayor and a city council form of government. So we're going to have 33 new positions, a new department, and some of those positions are full-time paid positions. Some are part-time, some are non-paid, but the government is going to grow, and it's going to grow substantially under charter.
Well, Bill, with growth of this, the 7-member commissioner and the county executive and the growth, would this be better representation for the citizens?
I mean, I certainly think that the representation that would be provided by a county council, which has the council members being closer to the people, I think that's better representation. When you are able to elect a person out of a constituent group of 29,000 as opposed to a constituent group of 108,000 or 216,000, your representative is going to be closer to you and better accessible and better able to respond to your needs, your individual needs of your region. And I'll take exception to what Chuck said, is that, and you need to know a little bit more of the facts of it, there are some additional positions that are created, but the only 2 new positions that are created, and absolutely new positions, the only 7 new positions that are created are county council members, which would be a part-time position paid about $10,000 a year. Currently, we have 2 associate commissioners and then Chuck, who's the presiding commissioner, and over a transition period of about 4 years, we would phase out the 2 associate commissioner positions, which are currently elected from about half of the county each, and replace them and replace their legislative position and their executive position, place it with the county executive, and place their legislative power in the hands of the council. Now, the cost of the county for that would ultimately be a net savings. Now, we are talking about having professional administration, which is similar to what many cities do, and we would like to see, and we do have a director of administration, we anticipate that that position will have greater authority than the current director of administration position that the county has, but we think the professional management on a day-to-day basis, when you vest the legislative authority in the council, which is a part-time position, that's necessary. And so we'll have...
If I may, you alluded to the facts, and the facts are we create 2 boards of 5 each for the new merit system, which is a new type of employment designed in the county. We create a new Emergency Services Commission of 10 members. That's 20 new positions in the charter, and perhaps you should refer to it, but the Building Commission goes from a 5-member commission to a 7-member commission. The council goes from 2 to 7, and you have this new director of administration. So those are new positions. Whether or not they are currently paid, they all become part of county government. This Emergency Services Commission is a new commission, and it becomes part of county government. Now, will the council in the future, if that commission requests funding for whatever reason as they do their business, more than likely the council will appropriate money for that commission. And so to say that it only creates a small number is simply untruth. It's misleading. And to say that it is revenue savings is certainly misleading. You can't add this much to county government and not expect it to cost more.
Well, Chuck, I think that you're mischaracterizing some of the things as well, and I think that your position is misleading on a number of levels. First of all, the increase in the size of government that you're talking about, if there is funding for these positions, it will be done by the elected representatives of the people who will be closer to the people. And so if a council member votes for increasing the number of paid positions or increasing the budgets of any county department, the citizens will have the recourse that they've always had, which is to vote those people out of office. Now they'll have a better opportunity to do it with a smaller constituent district. Additionally, the charter provides for recall, which we don't currently have, and so if someone is abusing the power or they don't like the way it's done, they can exercise recall in much the same way that the Charter Commission was established. And let me just address a couple of things. First of all, the merit system is designed to provide greater job security from political repercussions for county employees. Now, that merit system, there are two merit systems. One's for the sheriff's department and one's for the county employees generally. The merit system will have a merit commission, but we don't anticipate that that commission is going to be functioning in any type of full-time authority. Essentially, it is designed to handle grievances or to handle terminations that are done by the county agencies. And we don't anticipate that that particular group is going to have a lot of business to do, because we hope that the county will terminate employees as rarely as possible and only for good cause, and we won't have appeals.
Bill, I'm very much...
Just one more thing, and that is that I watched when I was preparing for this, I watched your State of the County address, and one of the things you led off with was the pride that you have in coordinating the services among the various emergency services providers.
Absolutely.
The EMS, the Public Safety Commission that is provided, is in direct response to not only the fire districts and emergency service district providers and the ambulance district providers, but also your own head of emergency services came and testified to us and asked us to create that very commission, which will serve unpaid and will not have authority to implement change that the districts don't want, but will only be able to take action to coordinate services among the county emergency services providers in the very manner that you were extolling during your State of the Union.
What I clearly meant in my State of the County address was that we were certainly willing to work with other political subdivisions, not that we should incorporate them into county government. That's what was not my intention. We cooperate with them. This brings the Emergency Services Committee into county government and becomes a part of county government. Now, clearly, if someone is unhappy with the way the new charter government is going, they can certainly go to the polls and they can elect a new county councilman. That county councilman will be one of 7, and that will in no way change the course of county government. Under our current form of government, you can vote for your county commissioner and you can vote for the presiding commissioner. Now you have 2/3 of the government, and you can, in fact, change the direction of county government. Under a charter form of government, under this council form of government, you only get to vote for 1/4 of the, and you are always in the minority, which brings up a very serious issue. Currently, the greatest portion of the landmass of the county is held in farmers and rural ownership. Under the charter, they would become a minority voter. The city of Arnold, which has its own government and its own council form of government, will get 1.5 council members. The urban portion of the county will have a disproportionate, will have 4 votes. If they decided that, for instance, they wanted to pass onerous legislation that could be dangerous to a farmer, for instance, livestock regulations or long grass, the rural portion of the county would be in the minority. Those folks in Arnold would have no responsibility to think about the interests of folks in the other districts, whereas a county commissioner has the full responsibility for those folks in the rural portion of his district as well as those folks in the urban portion of his district. So the fact that you get better representation is very misleading, because you in fact get less voice as far as directing change in government.
Bill, if I can, I want to throw a question out maybe to Chuck and Bill. Jefferson County has approximately 8, give or take, plus or minus 1 or 2, urban city governments.
Right. 9.
9.
Plus.
Yeah, plus or minus.
Yeah. Plus, don't forget the peaceful village. So.
And every
All 3 of
single
those folks.
one of those municipalities has a city council of anywhere from 4 to 8 councilmen representing a couple thousand people. I've never heard anyone say, let's abolish a city council and give 1 or 2 representatives for an entire city. Why doesn't Jefferson County deserve the same type of representation
I'll
that the
tell you
city of
why.
Arnold
Because
has?
we'll tell you why we don't need that kind of government. I've been there. I've been a mayor, and I've dealt with the council. And I've had people who were mad at the police chief, so they ran for councilman to get rid of the police chief, and they got rid of the police chief. We just don't do that here in Jefferson County at the county level. That form of government is very parochial, it's very local, and it's great for neighborhoods, and it's great for municipalities. It works very well in a 4,000 or 5,000 city, population city, but for an entire county, it's dangerous, and we have to make sure that we protect the rights of all of our citizens. And part-timers, you know, bless them for their service. We certainly thank them for their service, but part-timers don't have the interest. They end up with special interests, and they bring those to the table, and that's not. They don't always make wise decisions.
I'll throw it back to you here in just a second. A couple things I want to mention that I think both gentlemen would agree on. the people who took the time to write this charter were dedicated. They had open meetings. They did it the correct way. And they really thought out well, if this is approved, they really thought out well the transition as far as, so if you vote for your first district commissioner or second district commissioner wherever you live, they will be able to continue to serve and get their whole salary. No one's going to get caught off at the knees here or anything like that. Right. So that was well thought out. Now, Mr. Dotson, if you would address Mr. Banks' point about the rural population being underrepresented.
Well, I think that Chuck's are trying to have it both ways, because the next question that he answered was saying, why not the type of government that is used by the cities, the municipalities? And what he said is that that type of government is great for neighborhoods. That's the exact constituency that you're talking about with rural folks. The math just doesn't add up. Right now, a person who lives in a rural area is greatly influenced by who the municipalities in the county vote for to elect as their current associate commissioner or their current presiding commissioner, because that's where the population centers are. Instead, with 7 districts, you're going to have districts that are more predominantly rural than other districts, and so you are going to have, Arnold is going to have some representatives on the county council, but rural DeSoto is going to have a possibility of having a representative on the council. Rural Jefferson County south of R7 is going to have the ability to have representatives on the council. The High Ridge area will have an opportunity to have representation on the council, and that's what representational government is all about, is having the government closer to the people. So if you ask a person who lives in rural Jefferson County whether they're going to be better suited by having 2 individuals who are elected from 108,000 people, or 1 individual who they can report to and will have impact on the legislative function of the county through the county council, and that person is elected out of 29,000 of them, I think that they'll find that the representation is better for them. Well, additionally, just one more thing is that Chuck's talking about how this council is going to be part-time, and that's not going to be as professional a government. But the argument also is that it's bigger government. A part-time council is less likely to create big government, because they're going to be meeting, they're going to be addressing the major issues. They're not going to have, they're going to be hopefully consolidating their time to deal with the major issues that are presented. And we'll have a professional administrator and a professional chief executive who will be able to assist them in directing it.
Well, wait a minute. Let's just look at where charter government is currently in the state. Jackson County, St. Charles County, and St. Louis County. All 3 of those counties, when they implemented charter, their government grew enormously. And when I said that the government is bigger, I wasn't just referring to the 7-member increase in the council. I was mentioning the increase in the building commission and the emergency services, all these other boards that the charter creates. So the impact on people is that the bureaucracy is going to be bigger. Now when they come to Jefferson County, they're going to speak to the elected official who has the authority, or at least 1/3 of the authority, to address their concerns. Under the charter form of government, they're going to deal with a county administrator who answers effectively to no one.
But on the growth of county government argument, during the 5-year period from 2004 to 2008, the growth of the current budget of our county has increased by over 17%. And so our county is growing. The size of government is growing under the current commission.
Now, I beg to differ with you. The sheriff has the same number of deputies that he had when he took office. Ask him. We have been able to hire a few out of the municipal court, but we have been able to provide more services. We have not increased exponentially the number of employees because we receive more money. We have spent that money wisely and have added services.
But the test of increasing government, when it's been told to me, is that you refer to St. Charles County, which experienced a growth in government that was based on their budget. What occurred when St. Charles County adopted charter government, and what occurred, I think, when St. Louis County adopted charter government, is they were first-class cities looking to have a first-class form of government. They were first-class cities that were moving, they had increases in population, and they needed to have a better, more representational, more flexible government that could accomplish the ends that were needed legislatively without having to go to Jefferson City. To get that, they adopted a charter form of government, and the timing of that was that they'd adopted at a time in which they were growing. And so when you see the growth of St. Louis County's government, or you see the growth of St. Charles County's government, it is in direct response to the increase in population and the increase in revenue that they had as a result of having economic good times, potentially as a result of having more efficient government. Now, we did not adopt Jackson County's charter form of government. We didn't adopt St. Charles County's government. We didn't adopt St. Louis County's government. As a matter of fact, there are significant changes that were reflective of what the citizens of Jefferson County wanted in a charter government here.
For example, re-electing your own officials and things like that.
But the fact is, you took the St. Charles County charter government as your base, and it was on your website as the draft copy for many, many weeks. So don't say that it's not the same. Of course it's not the same as Jefferson County, but it's very, very similar to St. Charles County. And it needs to be noted, too, that the charter that St. Charles County, St. Louis County, and Jackson County initially passed is not the charter that they have today. St. Louis County, when they passed their initial charter, all of their elected officials, as is in the Jefferson County charter, all of their elected officials were part of and were elected. And now when you go to St. Louis County, you get to vote for the prosecuting attorney, you get to vote for the county executive, and everybody else is gone because it was modified.
And the reason for that is because, and the only way that the charter can be amended was the citizens of St. Charles County and the citizens of St. Louis County, after having the charter, decided that they wanted to have a different form of elected office holders. Now,
how many times did they have to put the issue before the ballots before they got rid of the assessor? How many times did they have to put the issue before the voters before they got rid of the collector?
Okay.
You know, this is persistence, and if you just like a school that wants to raise the taxes, they can continue to put it on until finally they get a favorable vote. The fact is, to change charter government, as written in this charter, is much easier than it is to change our current form of government, which has taken over 3 years.
and that is absolutely a mischaracterization.
It's exactly
Because-
the fact.
No, because right now, it takes a 50% vote of the, in order to implement the charter that has been drafted on November the 4th, it will take a 50% vote. 1/2 of the people who vote have to vote for it.
Wait a minute, that's after 3 years of
Okay, but
work.
Let me finish, because in the process that is required to amend the charter after it passes is that it requires a 4/7 majority of the vote, and the vote cannot be put on an April election or a March election, an off-year election. The only time that the charter can be changed is at a general election on a 2-year cycle. And so to say that it is easier for the charter to be amended after it is implemented than to adopt the charter is a misstatement.
It is not.
In order to get charter passed in this county, you had to get a number of signatures, which caused the commission to be appointed, and then that was done. And
It took 3 years to get those signatures,
Okay.
and the other way to get charter on the government is to have 2 votes, and that's the way that was originally written,
But
is to have a
Chuck,
vote of the people to decide whether they wanted to have, and that's what should have been done this time. We wasted 3 years and a whole bunch of money writing a charter when we should have put it before the voters to ask them if they in fact wanted
Chuck,
a
let me
charter
play-
commission.
Let me play devil's advocate here. Who would have had the authority to put that before the vote of the people so we wouldn't have had to waste 3
The
years?
county commission.
So why didn't the county commission put
didn't?
it before the people?
Because the representatives of the people, the county commission, who were elected to their offices, did not find enough support within their districts to place it on the ballot. And that is why the elected board did not have enough support from the citizens to place it on the ballot.
So hindsight
and to put
being-
it on the ballot when your citizens do not support it, then you're wasting their money.
Okay, but hindsight being 20/20 is they got enough signatures, but let's say hypothetically, charter goes down in defeat 60-40, landslide. That means 40% of the population supported charter government. Isn't that enough for the county commission to say, we got a 40% of our population wants this issue, shouldn't you have put it on the ballot?
When I ran for office, I supported putting it on the ballot in this upcoming election to ask the question as to whether or not they wanted to form the commission. I didn't have support from my fellow commissioners, but I had no problem with that. But I did not have a groundswell of support, and neither did the charter. That's why it took 3 years, and through 2 gubernatorial offices. We started this in Bob Holden, and we ended up in Matt Blunt. And there's some real problems with that because the number of signatures required should have changed, and you can't collect petitions under changing numbers. But that's another issue. The fact is, there was not a groundswell of support, or they would have easily garnered, they only needed 5% of the electorate. They could have easily garnered those if there was a groundswell of support, but it took them 3 years, and that's indicative of the support, or the lack of support, for a charter.
And what occurred is that they collected over 10,000 signatures in order to do this in the exact way that the Missouri Constitution provides. And I just want to mention that the discrepancy between what you're saying is that regarding St. Charles County, you say that it's easy for them to change for office holders because they can have multiple submissions of the issue. And yet the reason that you say that the charter is going to be more difficult to pass under the current situation situation is that they have to have 2 votes of 50%. Those are multiple submissions. You can't have it both
They're not
ways.
the same submission. Maybe I need to explain it.
I
The
understand
first
the
one is
process
to
completely.
raise the question whether or not to farm the charter commission.
So that's one 50%
That's one
vote,
50,
then they
right.
write it,
Then
and
you
the
write
next
it,
time they
then there's,
ratify it with the
right,
50%
exactly.
vote,
It
okay?
takes 2 votes on 2 separate issues to change the government under our current form of government. Under charter, it takes a majority. 4/7 vote of the council is a majority of the council, and 4/7 of the populace is doable, very doable. That's how school board issues pass.
Okay. Well,
It's still easier than 2 separate votes.
All right.
We need to take a break here, and one point I want to make before we do is that Chuck Banks, our presiding commissioner, if this does pass, he won't lose his job. He would then become the top executive, if you will, under the new charter form of government. So, if you want to if you think there's some type of reason he's coming out against charter, that's not one of them, because he will still stay
Or if you're
employed.
thinking about voting to charter just to get him unemployed.
Yeah, that won't work either.
We're still going to have Chuck.
That's
here.
right. I just want to save all my signs that say vote for presiding commissioner, and if it says county executive, I got to
that's
buy
gonna
all
be
new signs.
different, yeah. So we'll take a quick break. Back with more right here on the Roundtable on JCTV.
You may not know their names, but the students who are helped through a Jefferson College Foundation scholarship carry thanks in their hearts. It's for the kindness that our contributors have shown. Make a difference in their tomorrows.
Education, the great equalizer. It doesn't just mean you get more knowledge, it means you improve your quality of life.
Give to the Jefferson College Foundation today.
It's like going to Harvard in Jefferson County. Students have the best education possible.
Top-notch education. Quality education is a 10.
I love the fact that Jefferson College is so close to my home. It's great. I love it. It works for my schedule.
The housing is incredibly convenient. Class schedules are very convenient for students.
I'm Stacy Self. I'm Kimberly Clark.
I'm Nick Schaefer. I'm Della Selman, and I discovered my future at Jefferson College.
Welcome back to the Roundtable. I'm Matt West. Steve Davis is here alongside, and we're talking about charter.
Charter government.
And had a good discussion so far.
The interesting thing about charter government is they can see the show on Charter Communications.
Hey,
There you go.
Hey, yeah, how about that?
Yeah, and that's kind of sad there. Folks really aren't getting engaged, and it's hard to get folks to read the charter and really find out about it. And one of the Charter Commission members, Paul Reinheimer, was talking to him. He said, yeah, it gets a little frustrating. My neighbor comes over who knows that he's on the Charter Commission and said, hey, Paul, how's that charter cable thing going?
We talked about a couple things we wanted to address, but you brought up reading the charter. Could each of you maybe give us one part of the charter that we really haven't heard anything about that's in that 56-page document or however long it is?
Well, I can't recall the wording, but I know there's some interesting language about notices and posting of ordinances that is going to be pretty expensive. I mean, you need to read it because it requires that they be, published and in the paper. And when you start publishing ordinances in the paper, you're talking about pages, and papers don't print for free.
You mean they didn't say just call the radio station? They didn't mention that? Okay, it's all newspaper stuff.
Well, Chuck, I think we can get around that because I think Matt's offering to have the radio station do it for free.
Hey, if it's not written in the charter, I don't want to mess with the government document here.
I mean, that's a good thing to address, and I think it's one of the advantages that the charter currently has is that it allows for greater transparency in county government. I mean, I went online to try to find some of the issues, or to research some of the issues for today, and I found that the county doesn't publish the minutes of its commission meetings online. They have a spot and they tell you that you can go to Hillsborough and try to pick up a copy, but we believe that by having greater transparency, by requiring notices to be published, by having them published on the web, that we'll have greater transparency. And one of the things that will be helpful is that the council will meet at night at times when individuals can come and participate in it. They can participate in it without having an attorney present. They can participate in it in a manner that allows them to have input on the council. The notice provisions require that you can't pass an ordinance on the first reading. that there has to be appropriate notice given to allow people to participate in the legislative portion of county government. So we think that's a good thing.
We do post on the website all of our agendas, and if you look at those agendas, you will, and we meet every week, twice every week, so a lot more than twice a month, part-time in the evening. We meet every week during the day, and most of the stuff that we have on our agendas, all the orders, most of them are business stuff, doing awarding bids and the day-to-day stuff that is required for government, but it's really not of interest to citizens to come and sit through those types of meetings to find out that
I've seen those
had
agendas.
Yeah,
they're pretty boring.
They're very boring. They're very
don't make
boring.
a
They're
good news
very
story.
important. We do
I know, but it's,
proclamations and things. But when there's a special need, we hold hearings in the evening. We hold our planning and zoning hearings when people would probably want to come and make a comment. We hold those at 6 o'clock, and we'll put those in a large venue if they exceed the capacity of our room. We want to make sure that the folks are heard, and the three commissioners' doors are always open, and we return all of our calls. And if there's any issues, I'm proud of the job that the three commissioners do. I don't get a lot of reports of people not returning calls or not reacting.
And understand that at a very basic level, the desire to have a council form of government was not indicative of the people on the commissions thought that the people who were in the current commissioner positions were not doing a good job. Essentially, it was that we have an opportunity to change the form of government in a way that we thought was for the better. And that did mean that we would eliminate the associate commissioner positions, but we tried to treat the people fairly. We thought that converting the presiding commissioner job into the county executive would provide for a more seamless transition. I'm glad that you, Matt, have read it and think that that's a good provision. But really, we think it's about the form of government, certainly not about any individual.
Right,
but in fact, it is a referendum on our county government. We're asking to change the county government. Now, when you change something, three things can happen. It can get better, it can get worse, or it can stay the same. Is there enough bad things going on in the county government that you want to change it?
Well,
so it is a referendum on county government.
But interestingly enough, our current past presiding commissioner, immediately preceding you, is a strong advocate of county government. Both Commissioners Kemp and Lamping, at times when they weren't so close to the election and their personal issues weren't involved, both of them were on record as saying that they thought that a change to a charter form of government was a good thing. And the reasons they cited was, well, one of the things we were talking about at the break was the fact that the county has to go to Jefferson City to engage the Missouri legislature.
Let's talk about that. No,
I'm sorry, but you can take that out of context. But the fact is, what we know is that Commissioner Kemp and Commissioner Lamping have never been in favor. Otherwise, this would have been on the ballot. We know that Mark Mertens proposed many times to place this on the ballot.
Sure.
And the other two commissioners were not willing to do that. Had they been in support any time during that time, they could have, being two votes, they would have been able to easily place it on the ballot. So let's not represent Mr. Kemp and Mr. Lamping's position. They're not here.
I do want to throw something out there. We're going to talk home rule, but isn't that the whole purpose of expanding the charter? Because two individuals made a decision for the entire, 200,000 citizens of Jefferson County who thought we wanted to change our government, and two individuals were able to block that request.
I never heard a groundswell of folks saying we need to change our government. There were a very, very small minority of folks who got bad decisions in planning and zoning who were in fact vocal about. And then there was another group of folks whose party was having a hard time getting elected in the county, who would like to see some gerrymandering of council districts so that they could get a foothold in county government. Either of those things are not good things. And I never saw a groundswell of support for our charter government.
What we got to talk about.
As a matter of fact,
home
we should
rule.
say that this has been on the ballot here and has failed every time.
Can I just address that real quickly? I'm looking at an article that was published in the Post-Dispatch in November.
Let's not speak for Mr. Lamping and Mr. Kemp unless they're here.
Well, they have a direct quote which says, Mr. Kemp said at the time, "We have a very inefficient style of government. We constantly run into problems that we do not have solutions for because we're not permitted to make rules and we have to depend on our state senators and representatives."
And Churchill said that democracy is the worst form of government, but it's the best yet. So that really doesn't matter, Bill. Let's talk about the facts here.
You're trying to interrupt me. I'm very frustrated because the county commission has all of the responsibility and none of the authority to address problems.
So let's talk about the
Well,
authority,
that goes back to home rule, and I'm sure what he was referencing was something along the fact that there are certain situations where the county commission does not have the authority that a charter form of government would have, that council form of government would have, and some of them are passing ordinances and things like that. But we've been to Jeff City.
Right,
We've
there's
been
nothing-
to Jefferson City several times, right?
Right, there's nothing that we need from Jefferson City that we don't have. And charter form of government needs to go to the legislature just as much. That's why St. Louis County, St. Charles County, and Jackson County have paid advocates at the legislature to get their legislation through. And there are numerous laws that apply strictly to charter counties. So to say that we never have to go to the legislature is simply wrong. And to say that we've just seen in this Court of Appeals case that came out of St. Louis County that they slapped the hand of St. Louis County that said just because you're charter doesn't mean you can get around the law, and regarding the 2-year waiting period for solid waste districts.
But the question is going to the legislature. Yes, the legislator, whether it's a Jefferson County legislature or a state of Missouri legislature, is going to make these determinations. Isn't it better that it be a Jefferson County? Wouldn't I much rather go to Arnold or DeSoto and talk to a representative than go to Springfield or Joplin or Kirksville
I don't
and talk
understand
to
your
some
point, Steve.
representative to get something done?
I don't understand your point. I mean, if you want to get something done in Jefferson County, you come and talk to me, you talk to your commissioner, and it's done. You have 2 people, and you've
But
got the
unless I
majority
need a law
together.
passed, then my
Well, but charter doesn't exempt the cities from state law. They still have to.
let's say-
If you want to pass a law banning smoking statewide, whatever, you're going to have to go to the legislature for that.
But let's say that 4 years ago, somebody came to you, Chuck, and said, I've got this problem. I've got this derelict vehicle that's next door to me, and there's this decrepit building that's next door to me, and I'd like you to take action to go in and remove it and charge the people for it like I understand that other counties able to do. Your response would have had to have been, I can't do that.
No,
because
we do that every
you do that because,
month.
You do that because you had a specific state statute on public nuisance.
The word is "had" that you used, and that's the operative word,
Okay.
because we don't need that
Okay,
anymore.
but if we were talking to you 6 months before that, I expect that you still would have been afraid.
Well,
to
if we
force
could
a
go
charter
back in
government.
time, would be a lot of things would be different. But the fact is, we have a municipal court, we have planning and zoning, we have solid waste, we have all the things that we need for good government. And there are some things that we probably won't do. We probably won't regulate the discharge of firearms in the county. We probably won't, regulate barking dogs in the county. We have no interest in doing that.
Well,
I was just going to ask you, because Mr. Banks made earlier, and I don't think you had a chance to address it, a point about there's no groundswell of support for a change. But couldn't you also make the argument that the county has grown to the point where it's a natural step or natural progression to put charter into place?
absolutely. I mean, I think that, in 1972, when the first efforts were to have charter government passed, since that time, the county's more than doubled in size. The budget of the county has grown incredibly since that period of time. The counties that have adopted home rule charter form of government have adopted it because they needed a government that was more flexible, that was better able to respond to the needs of the individual constituents. It's government that is closer to the people.
Ask a developer who wants to develop in St. Louis County if he would rather go to St. Louis County to get his development done or to go to Jefferson County and get his development done. I think you're going to find that he'd much rather go to Jefferson County. We're smaller, we're simpler, we're more quick to react. St. Louis County, just because you have a larger numbers doesn't mean that it's better.
But that's interesting because the developing association, the HBA, had a Jefferson County only ordinance that was proposed that dealt with the fire districts within the last 2 or 3 years, and they were so unhappy with the way that Jefferson County was treating
I beg
the
to,
developers.
you need to
and
you need to understand that fire districts are not part of Jefferson County
I understand
government.
that. I
Well,
understand
evidently not. They did not pass an ordinance or ask for a law to be passed against Jefferson County government because it was simply not the case.
All right. If I can throw something out to you, gentlemen, this is another one of those scare words that the citizens are hearing. Eminent domain.
Good point.
How does this charter affect eminent domain from where we're at now to where it would be?
Under the charter, you have to have a 4/7 vote to use eminent domain for utility purposes. That's 57%. Under current form of government, it takes 66%. We only use eminent domain for public utility use, for when we need a little bit of right-of-way for roadways. Only in those forms of government, like the City of Arnold, which is a similar form of government to charter, do you find the charter is being used for economic development purposes.
That is not
fact.
the decision to use eminent domain is not based on the form of government. There may be restrictions that are placed on it, but the fact that Arnold chose to use eminent domain is more indicative of the times that Arnold is dealing with. The fact that we currently have 3 commissioners who have not used eminent domain for primarily economic development purposes doesn't mean that future commissioners won't. And to say that it's a 66%, it's 2 individuals who can vote to use eminent domain for any purpose at all currently. What the charter form of government would say is that it would require 4 votes out of 7 to implement eminent domain for general type of uses for public use, could be subject to the veto of the county executive, which would require then a 5/7 override in order to be able to use it. And for the issue particularly of using property like Arnold had for primarily economic development, we would have even greater standard. We would require a 5/7 vote of the county of the county council in order to be able to use that. If the county executive vetoed that, it would require 6 votes out of 7, near unanimous, in order to use it. And if economic development was still allowed under eminent domain was still used for primarily economic development reasons, there would be relocation expenses that would be paid to the landowner, and they would be paid double what the fair market value is.
Very similar to the state law that is passed governing eminent domain.
Enhanced provisions over what the
So
state law is.
it
And the state law
echoes.
can change at any time.
It echoes state law, and so can the charter. I mean, it's one of
The charter can only be amended by a 4/7 vote of the people. State
right.
law can be passed in the same manner that you're criticizing the type of council form of government, by having a vote of the assembled legislative constituents in Jefferson City.
We're going to have to bring this to a close here in a few
No,
minutes.
we're having so much fun.
Yeah, just a few minutes. No, you'll both get a chance to talk here. I just want to mention to our viewers that you can view the charter itself on jeffcocharter.org. Is that correct?
That's correct.
www.jeffcocharter.org. It's like 56 pages, and get a cup of coffee because it takes you a little while. But go through it, and you can see these different things that they've been referring to, new employees, or how all the offices are still elected offices, and all this kind of stuff they're talking about. And you can check it out for yourself. I want to thank both our guests, and again, you guys will both have a chance to talk again here about charter, because Mr. Banks is not running for re-election, and he does not, if it does pass, he still has a job and all that other neat stuff. And Bill Dotson, who I'm sure is a great attorney, doesn't get anything for defending this charter. He was just an author of it, one of 14 who took who volunteered his time to write this document. But that's all the vested interest he has. So he is here explaining to us, but he doesn't. He personally doesn't win or lose if this passes or fails. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely.
All right.
This is the first time I've been involved in the political process at all.
And speaking
All
of
right.
that, the best way we can thank these 2 gentlemen for taking the time is Tuesday, November 4th.
All right.
Show up at the polls, one way or another, vote this issue.
All right.
Don't let it pass by 2 votes. Don't let it fail by 2 votes. Let's get a majority of the citizens to render an opinion.
All right, and I'm going to throw it to Chuck, and then I'll throw it to Mr. Dotson. Look,
summary?
No. You would
you're right.
Listen to me just for a second. You would become the most powerful executive in Jefferson County history,
In the history
if
of-
this thing passes.
Yes.
What is wrong with that? You're a politician.
Well,
you should be jumping up and down.
If political gain was my goal, then yeah, I would probably support it. But it's not my goal. My goal is, and my responsibility and my charge is to act in the best interest of the citizens, all of the citizens, the urban citizens and the rural citizens of Jefferson County. And as I read this document, and I've read this document, and I've looked at this document, it's just more government than we need in Jefferson County. Bigger government, and this is bigger in all ways, bigger government is not better government. And though it is cost neutral in its inception, certainly the council is going to recognize that they're going to need more for revenues to support this bigger government, and they're either going to have to raise taxes, which will require a vote as by state law, or they will have to cut services, or if the county grows, they will absorb that growth instead of providing more services by paying for the bigger government. So bigger government is not better government. This is really is unfair to the rural portion of the county. Those folks whose only government is county government, they become in the minority. And those folks, many who live in municipalities and have their own form of government, they gain the power. And it's just not right for Jefferson County. We're historically very conservative folks down here, and bigger's not better. And why fix what is not broke? And so, I'm going to stand with my fellow commissioners and all my elected officials in the great job that they do. And this is a referendum on our current government. So,
all right. Well, fair enough. And let's throw it to you. You heard some of Mr. Banks' argument throughout this whole show. What would you say to people to reassure them that this is where we need to be?
I'd say that the Missouri Constitution provides for this type of change when a county reaches a certain size. And the document that has been drafted is not a document that is some sort of rogue document. We had people who, we spent a lot of time. We offered Chuck and every other office holder the opportunity to come in and provide input. We had 39 meetings, all transparent, never in closed session. And the document that has been generated is one of balance. It is one that provides for the increase in the ability of the county to have flexibility to adopt and flexible changes to and alternatives to the county's problems at the local level rather than having to go to Jefferson City. It doesn't take away any of the elected offices other than the associate commissioner positions. It doesn't necessarily make it bigger. In order for it to get bigger and have the type of growth that we've already experienced in the last 4 years under the current county administration, it would require elected representatives who are closer to the people to exercise the people's will in expanding government services if that's what they want, or in reducing them. The growth would be, I think, the same as what you've seen in previous administrations. And as to the issue regarding rural folks or people who are disenchanted with the current form of government, it is an opportunity for individuals to have a greater say in the government of the county. It allows for people to be elected from much smaller districts, for people that you know to run, to be your representatives. It allows someone who currently has a job but doesn't want to quit their job but wants to participate in county government to have the opportunity to run for and be elected and to perform the legislative function. And regarding Chuck's position, yes, we did not want to eliminate the presiding commissioner and have a whole new election. We've had no issues with personal issues with any of the current elected office holders, but Chuck's job does change because Chuck's job loses its legislative component. And I think that much of what Chuck has said here today are the statements of a politician who has a personal interest in preserving the current power base that he has. I think that instead, if you look at it as a statesman, I think that you see that it is the better thing for the county, and it is the better thing for the county to adopt for the long haul. And that's my statement.
Well, thank you, gentlemen. We thank you both for coming.
Great discussion. Thank you for having us.
Tune in next time, right here on JCTV for the Roundtable. For Steve Davis, I'm Matt West. Thanks for joining us.